Hello, and welcome to 5 Minute Math. Today we are looking at the sixth grade concept of ordering rational numbers. This is 6.2D Readiness Practice, the intermediate version. If you're interested in exploring the 6.2D Readiness Practice for the proficient or advanced versions, or the Readiness Practice resource aligned with any other standard, you can find those by using the link in the video description. All right, so we have four friends comparing their lengths of the rope jumps or jump ropes. So we've got uh, Sarah. She's got 2.5. I'm just going to drop the meters because they're all meters here. We've got Ben, 2 and then 1/4, so mixed number. We've got Emily, 2.8. And then David is another mixed number, 2 and 3/5. All right, we need to order them. The lengths of the jump ropes from shortest to longest. Okay, so this isn't going to work if we've got some as mixed numbers and some as decimals. So we can either make them all mixed numbers or all decimals. I always find the decimals to be easiest because if you make them all mixed numbers, now they all have to have the same denominator. So my 2.5, my 2.8 are good to go. I'm just going to take my 2 and 1/4. Really, I know it's going to be 2 something, so let's just call it 2, and let's deal with my 1/4. Okay, so my 1/4, right, we can do two things. We can either multiply by either something to get to the denominator to change to 10, 100, or 1,000, or we can always divide up. You can divide your 4 into 1. Or you might just have this memorized. This is a benchmark fraction. So we should know by sixth grade what 1/4 equals. But let me show you how to make an equivalent fraction by multiplying by 10, 100, 1,000. I know that if I multiply 4 by 25, 4 quarters make $1. So 4 25s is going to make 100. I'm just going to bring that 2 over. So that's going to be, so 1/4, 1/4 is equal to 25 pennies, 25 over 100. Now, 25 hundredths is the same as place value, so that's also 25 hundredths. That's the connection we make in fourth grade, right? 2 and 25 over 100 is the same as 2.25. So I'm going to write Sarah right here. I'm going to write Ben as 2.25. I'm going to write my Emily as 2.8. Let's fix David here. So 2 and 3/5. Now this I'm looking for, can I get my denominator into 10, 100, 1,000? In this case, I'm going to multiply by 2's because that's going to get me, bring my big 2 over, 6/10, which equals 2.6. So 6/10 is right there. So now they're all decimals. Since my 25 goes to the hundredths place, let's add zeros afterwards. All right, so what are our lengths now from shortest to longest? Well, it's all 2 something, so let's look at our 10th place. That 25, so Ben is my shortest. So let's go ahead and write our answer here, shortest to longest. Make it very clear what we're looking for here. So first it's Ben, and I'm going to write the 2, and I'm going to write it back in the original. If this were a star question, you would see it as the original format, the 2 and 1/4, not the 2.25. So after we do that, it's going to be a 2.5, so that's Sarah. And her original format was just 2.5, not 2.50. Now I've got 2.80 and 2.60, so it's the 2.60. That's David. But that is a 2 and 3/5. And then we're going to end up with Emily at 2.8. There we go. We have our list of jump ropes in order from least to greatest, shortest to longest. So next, we've got just some numbers without any type of word problem to deal with. We need to put them in order from greatest to least. Now, we do have some negatives, so I'm going to use a number line here to help me. And if I make this my 0, I should automatically know, without doing anything, that I'm going to have my negative 2/3 and my 1/2 over here. And then these three are positives. and they are all going to come over here somewhere. Right, so I've already known my first two. Now, let's just put a -1. Let's just put a 1, because sometimes we don't need to order everything. We could use reasoning. Look at my two negatives. This is a negative fraction, -2/3. This is a -1.2. That's greater than 1. So my -1.2 is going to have to come over here because it's beyond 1. Remember, when we're going in negatives, it's the greater the number, the farther away it is from 0, just like it is on the positive side, right? But that means the less it is. And then my -2/3 is a fraction. It's not even a whole number. So that's going to mean it's going to live somewhere around here. So I didn't even necessarily need to change these because 1 was a whole number, 1 was a fraction, less than, between 1 and 0, which means that the whole number is automatically going to be larger, which means it's less because it's farther away from 0. So these two I already took care of. And take a look at what I can do here. I need to figure out where those two go, the 3/4 and the 5/10. But look at this one. Here's this one right here, and I know my 3/4 and my 5/10 are going to come somewhere between these two. So the only two that I really need to order, if I use reasoning, is 3/5 and 5/10. Now let's change this to hundredths. Multiplying by 25. You can always multiply fourths by 25 to get hundredths. That's 75 hundredths. And so that's going to be 0.75. And I'm going to bring this over. This is going to be 0.5. Let's make that 0.50. All right, so the 0.50 is less. That's going to come first. That was my 0.5. So actually, it would look better if it were right there in the middle, 0.5. And then my 3/4 is going to come 0.75, actually halfway in between. I'll put it underneath just because we're running out of room. And so there we go. We only had to really order the 0.5 and the 3/4, so we can use logic and reasoning to order the rest. Now we need it from greatest to least, so we're going to have to go from the largest back down. So I'm going to put G to L. And so my greatest was 1. And then I had my 3/4. Then I had my 0.5. And I got my two negatives. Next would be -2/3. And then finally the -1.2. So those are my numbers in order from greatest to least. So now we've got some numbers and we've got some decimals. We've got some mixed numbers. Oh, we got some improper fractions. There we go. We need to order them from least to greatest. Let's see if we can do that same thing. Because I see some negatives and some positives. All right, so here's my 0. Let's just put a -1 and a +1 kind of as benchmarks. All right, so my 1/2 and my 5/6 are going to go over here. They're positive. And then these three are actually going to go over here because they're negative. Now, I notice this -7/4 is an improper fraction. It's greater than 1. I notice the -1.25 is greater than 1. But I notice my -3/4 is less than 1, which means that has to go somewhere right here. And I don't need to order that. Let's see if we could do the same thing with the 1/2 and the 5/6. We should know which one is bigger, but technically they're both between 0 and 1, so we have to sort for them. But we at least were able to put a -3/4 on the map. Let's deal with our positives. I've got 1/2. I've got 5/6. Now they are both fractions, so in this case it might be easier to make them both have the same denominator. And I can easily just multiply this by 3's to get me into 3/6. So 3/6, 5/6, I know my 1/2 is going to be less. So I'm going to call this 1/2. I'm going to call this 5/6. It's really close to 1. 6/6 is the whole thing. So those two are done. Now let's take care of my -1.25 and my -7/4. So I've got -1.25, -7/4. I'm going to make that an improper fraction. I'm going to make that into a mixed number, right? So that's going to be, if you divide up, 4 goes into 7 one time, and there's 3 left over, right? And that's going to be my numerator. So 7/4 is the same as 1 3/4. And we can do our same trick of multiplying by 25s. And we're going to bring that negative 1 over, 75 over 100. All right, which equals negative 1.75, and this is negative 1.25. Now, we have to make sure we're keeping clear. The lesser the number, the smaller the number, the closer it is to 0. So my negative 1.25 is going to go right around here. The larger the number, the greater it away from it is from 0. And since they're negative, that means the smaller it's going to be. This is going to be my negative 7/4. It's going to be way out here. All right, so we're going to number these in order from least to greatest. So let's say least, greatest. So my first one was negative 7/4, putting them back in the original format. And I've got my negative 1 25/100. Got my negative 3/4. And I've got my 1/2. And then I've got my 5/6. All right, those are my numbers in order from least to greatest. If you are interested in exploring the 6.2D readiness practice for the proficient or the advanced version, or the readiness practice resource along with any other standard, you can find those by using the link in the video description.